Rolling. Okay, welcome back. It's the Talk Black Radio Show. Now, we have done a quick rotation here in the break, and we now have Sister Cheryl Pheonix with us, and my big brother Mark, who is from Black History Studies. You will know his work, you will know what they do, because they are prolific in making sure our young people stay educated, and they're always having big events, like always, and like we just make sure it's a staple for us. So Mark, welcome to Talk Black Radio.
Thank you, brother.
Wifey has been with us before, but this is our first time. We're blessed to have you.
Yeah.
So lovely.
Thank you, sir.
And Cheryl, you're kind of like a regular for the Talk Black Radio Show, who actually happens to live around the corner, so we're killing it. It's easy for you to do today. So, how are you all finding today's homeschool fair?
It's very well attended, which I'm very happy, because Sister Leah worked so hard to put it together. So I'm glad that the people have come out to support, most definitely.
She's actually I've been like 3 years, and she rams the spot every time we come out for it. Because to me, it's like, this is the preeminent black homeschool fair in the UK, which we're blessed to be at. So have you found it today?
Actually, isn't it?
I actually think it may be. I don't know if there's another.
In the African community, I believe it's the only one.
Oh, okay.
So it needs to be RAM.
Yes.
No excuses.
Yes. I kind of wanted a bigger venue, because people actually wanted to come, couldn't come, because it was sold out a day before the event. So that's kind of nice, because we always wait till the last minute.
Of course.
All right, homeschooling and your journey. Who will start?
I know. I was kind of forced to homeschool because of, obviously, the main reason why I started the Black Child Agenda with regards to the discrimination in the schools. And my son was homeschooled for 2.5 years, and he hated it. Being honest with you, but he was 14 and he was going through that emotional stage.
That's really important, that point, because we haven't actually said it, but when you try to homeschool children, like, it does happen. They've got used to school.
They got used to school.
But here's the thing
friends.
I always have said, like, when I remember like saying I wanted to homeschool a particular one of my children, and like I could just see the pain in his face.
Yeah.
But then when I asked why, I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what, if you can show me the lessons you want to stay there for, you can stay.
Yeah.
There's no lessons you want to stay there for. You want to stay there for recess.
Friends.
You want to stay there for the break. You want to stay there for his friends. So I said, okay, cool. We'll stay there a few more weeks. You get everybody's telephone numbers. You link everybody. Get all the socials you need, because that's what you want to be there for.
Yeah.
Let me get all the socials back. And once we can put a good social in place, then we can do the job. And generally, once there's a social, because the
social aspect went, and he was quite.
Cool.
Then he grew into it and realised that, you know what I mean, he can get to go places, he can get to do stuff that his friends can't do. So it worked out for the better for him, because he done his GCSEs, we paid for his GCSEs to be done, etc., etc. So eventually he liked it, but at first he hated every single second of it, and it was strictly because he didn't get to see his friends.
So in terms of, like, 'cause I know now you deal with lots of parents who are always coming to you from the situation of their children being excluded.
Yep.
So how does homeschool feature in terms of the services you offer with the Black Child Agenda?
One of the first things I recommend is for them to take them out of school. Literally, the number one thing is, have you considered homeschooling? Some parents, because they're single and are working, can't do it. Then they forget and they don't realise they can actually flexi school. So your child can go to school half days, or if you work part time, you can fit it around when you work. But the first thing I always ask is, can you homeschool? And if not, then we fight to get them either back into the same school or into another school, unfortunately. But generally, when they go to another school, they do much better.
Just to be in a different environment.
Just to be in a different environment, but generally the first thing, because even Lexi has a WhatsApp group, I think more than half of the people in there are Black Child Agenda clients who have been referred to say, like, why don't you homeschool, from as far as Manchester right the way down to where we are in London.
Okay, I think a lot of the time we have like a perception of homeschooling, like it means you have to work around the kitchen table and you stay at the kitchen table all day. Your children get a little bit of a play or whatever. But when asked, you said you homeschool, but yours is slightly different the way that you homeschool, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm taking the Nation of Islam's view of teaching your own, in the sense that because it's not always possible for somebody to be there and homeschool 24/7.
Yes.
So the main and the most important thing is, when your child comes home from school,
Yeah.
That's a serious word to use, but I'll use it in the context. When your child comes home from school, it is very important that you sit down with your child, find out what the child has learned, correct anything that needs to be correct, and then
do you get the
arm
time
them.
to do that? I've seen your schedule. Do you and your wife get the time to do that? With
Yes, as and when, but then there is other people that support us that will help us.
Because what I think with the way that you do stuff, which is kind of, it reminded me like of when I was growing mine, is I just worked on the mission and the children rode with me.
Yes.
So a lot of the time you're sort of on that mission.
Yeah.
That's why I said, do you get the time? Because every time I see them, they're with you
Yeah,
on,
so it's
and they're
all
working on
incorporated. It's all incorporated.
Okay, so you be doing a Black History Studies event, and your children are doing the merchandise, or your children are setting up, or your children, and all that's learning. So even though they go to school, because you all may have to do other things in the day, there's always that position of making sure that home is a learning environment for them, isn't it?
Most definitely.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead.
I think as an important part of that is about community involvement, and understand that's what it kind of breeds when you actually see your parents working in a certain way. Because sometimes when we talk about education, there are a lot of Black parents who invest in their children. They try and send them to special clubs. They teach them instruments. But a lot of time, what I see personally just from being in the school system is these children don't know that they're Black. They have no concept. So what you're and that will have to come later when they face discrimination in the workplace or whatever.
By that time, it might be too late.
It's too late, and you're not attached to the community. So to actually see that, I think that's an element or something that you can actually get from homeschooling or from having your children involved in that way.
And then, like Sister Leah was saying, you're in control of what your child is exposed to in terms of the education, in terms of the teachings, in terms of politics, science and technology. It's all down to you, because the school, like Malcolm X once said, the killing fields is they killed our children's potential by putting them into a systematic way of learning, which doesn't always agree and work with the way we are supposed to learn.
There's so many ways, because I was doing some research on this recently, but there's so many ways that school doesn't make sense, like the way that's learning stuff.
No, it doesn't.
Do you know when you're learning like in the community, like you were saying earlier, Trev, in terms of like we would learn in our communities and learn as part of our families, you never learn with just 13-year-olds. You'd learn with 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 80-year-olds. Like you get that experience across the community. So if you get into a space and everybody is exactly the same age as you, sometimes we talk about peers, but you don't realize it's insanity to have them just with 12-year-olds all day.
This is the problem we have, because my grandson's now being at homeschool, and his problem was his level of intelligence was way above his classmates.
Now he has to stay there because he was born in that month, not because of anything to do with
it's
how he
deeper
works.
than that. He's like a good couple years ahead of them. So what will happen is they will give him the work and he would finish it in a second, and then when he's asking for more work, they can't give it to him because it's not part of the program. And then when he's sitting there doing nothing, he's being rude and disruptive. So
that's the same thing that happened to my oldest son. Do you know what happened? In the end, they had him teaching the class. He was a mathematical genius. I don't know why or how, but he just was. And in the end, he taught the class. This is GCSE maths, and he was teaching his class because he would get through the work, same like what you've just said. And he was the top set, level 7, I believe that is. And I said, well, you need to put him a set higher. Oh, no, we can't. I was fuming. And they literally dumbed them down. And with him, because they couldn't dumb him down by way of his class size or the class he was in, they tried to dumb him down in just basically other activities, accused him of being racially discriminatory, etc., etc. And it's like, really, he was too intelligent. He used to slap them upside their head with just verbal intelligence all day.
It makes their work harder, and it makes their job harder.
Because you're actually exposing that reality that's taking place.
And there's one more thing as well. In order to teach the child, you have to love that child, and they don't love us.
They're fearful of particularly our boys. It's all right when they're cute. Oh, he's so sweet. As soon as year 8 and 9 comes and they start towering over you, oh my God, he's intimidating.
I don't think it takes that long for them to decide that they don't like them.
No.
But to be honest, and I think I've heard you say this before, it's weird. it just beggars belief that we actually would imagine that they would love us. If 450 odd years of history have not taught us anything, why are we still waiting that, this one will love my child. Okay, not that one. Maybe this one will love my child.
What's interesting, even the case that seems to be doing the rounds on Facebook and WhatsApp at the moment, I've had no less than 100 messages with the man where his case has started with the school system. Social services is now the biggest weapon that schools are using against parents. And the thing that frustrates me beyond is that this parent in particular as well, contacted me last year, gave them a clear guideline of what to do by way of the law of how to get yourself out of this predicament. Not just him, I've got about 3 other parents going through exactly the same thing. Their children have been taken away from them. They've gone into their house, they've had police sent to their house, raided their house with social services and taken their child.
Is this because they were homeschooled?
They were homeschooled. One of them tried to take the child out and homeschool. Within 24 hours, social services were at her door with the police and had the child taken away. And they made up all kinds of accusations. You've got all kinds of madness going on, but then people aren't following. If you're not listening,
so how do you protect yourself against that?
And blue eyes.
See, because
they would listen.
I think many people would be perturbed from homeschooling just for the sheer fear, like social services can come and take your children away. I do know this, and it's something I've worked with a little bit, but I know you're really into that. So how do you protect yourself to ensure that social services cannot take your children away?
You have to go through the legal process. The law's there for a reason. Use it. A lot of the time, I have to say this, we can be quite lazy in attaining the information, or even because I get people that will get through to me and literally burst into tears. And then, when I give them the advice, they don't follow it. And a year later, it's all gone belly up. And then they're like, what can you do? Do you have £350 an hour? Because I'm at a stage where I can't help you anymore. You need to go to a lawyer. When you were at that stage where I could help you, you weren't taking the advice. If I was Sally or Becky, I'm sure you would have listened.
Okay. They are calling for you downstairs. So Cheryl's about to go and actually do her presentation downstairs. So we're going to give her some room, shufty up a little bit. All right. And back to Mark. Mark, what is it? Oh, sorry.
There's a lot of people here that seem to come here for the information and want to homeschool their children, but there's a lot of misconception around things like having your children taken away from you, socialization. What are the general misconceptions outside of that stop people from actually making that transition?
I think the first thing is that it's hard. It's that, there's a perception of school in terms of it being this, perfect institution with super qualified professionals who, know everything. Like a lot of the time, I've been in schools where the teachers don't know their times tables. Like, Trev, how do you spell, simple word? I'm thinking, and you're the teacher. And even with it, there's certain things, the curriculum is so wide, there's certain things that you're not going to understand. You're going to have to work out the night before how you teach. And sometimes not knowing, some of the best lessons that I know I've taught is from subjects that I don't actually know. Sorry, not to touch table. I don't know. But because I've started from a position of not understanding it, then I've had to learn and gone through that process quickly, then I can relay it better. So in the same way, a parent, if you don't have all the knowledge, if you going through it with your child and going through that process, one, it builds a relationship, but as you're going through it together, sometimes it's better than just someone talking.
Because there's a level of understanding about which bits are difficult or which bits you struggle with to make it work.
At Black History Studies, we do courses. So I teach a 30-week course. I've been teaching it for about 6-7 years now, and every year I learn something new based on the people that I'm actually teaching, because they will ask questions that have never come up before, and then I have to go and do the research. Just because I
know the course, I want you to go through just a quick roundup of what's in that course, because when you hear what's in the course, it's just okay. So go ahead. What's in the course?
It's a 30-week course broken up into 3 terms of 10 weeks each, half terms at 5 weeks, and basically for the first 12 weeks we teach history, which ends with enslavement period, and then after that we teach sociology, psychology, science and technology, art, music, and religion.
But
Yeah.
you do all this in the context of who we are and what we've been
Of course,
through.
it's everything that we're teaching is from a black perspective. We've had teachers come on the course, teachers that have degrees in psychology and that type of stuff, and they said they've never heard any of the stuff that we've been teaching.
Because people don't spend time to put courses together like this. And this is what, when I saw the course, I'm like that is, you said you were saying what actually stops us from doing homeschooling is we don't believe that we have among us
the ability
to do it. But among us, we have teachers and we have people who not necessarily are the most professional, like, okay, we went to Oxford or Eton, but the love for the community is in their heart. And if we actually just focused, I think, anyway, enough on ourselves to know that we have this, we can do it. Because when I started homeschooling, I did not have a clue. I just knew I'm not putting up with that. And I've gone over, and then I've worked it out.
You took the word straight from my mouth. Just to answer your question as well, the number one thing that is stopping us from teaching our own is fear. The fear of this, the fear of that, the fear of everything, the fear of what might. But all it takes is a little bit of knowledge, because knowledge is power. And knowledge is power in the sense that knowledge of self eradicates all fear. When you realize what you're capable of, the world is your lobster, Rodney.
I think you've got a new marketing strategy there, just from the point of view of maybe that could be a prerequisite for homeschooling, people that want to homeschool. Know thyself first. Come on the Black History Studies course. As an alumni, I can definitely say it's highly recommend.
You've done the Black History?
Yes, many years ago. And you've got a course for families as well, haven't you? So that's something I'm going to be looking into as well.
I remember I asked you one time, so where did you get your understanding of Black history from? She didn't tell me she got it from your course, but I got something. When you was talking, you felt there was a lot that you knew that I just wondered where you got it from. And now you said you're an alumni of the great Black History Studies course. I kind of get it. That makes sense. I'm not saying that you haven't studied anywhere else. I haven't. I
mean, they didn't really teach it in schools. They just talk about slavery, and that's the be all and end all. So going to Black History Studies as an adult was an awakening for me.
Excellent.
So yeah, big up to the work.
Earlier,
yes. Knowing thyself is very important. So I think that for people who are in fear of not knowing themselves, not having the confidence to teach their children, if they go on a Black History Studies course, maybe that could be a prerequisite for.
That's a quick question as well. What would you say is, when people come onto your course, what do you think is the biggest surprise that people have when it comes to Black history, or the biggest misconception that we might have around Black history?
The biggest surprise is that we teach that slavery is not our history. Right? And that's one of the biggest surprises. But the other surprise is all of this information, they've never heard of it before in all of the years that they've been. Some of them have gone to SOAS and other organizations to do.
I'm sure that's the School of Oriental. There you go.
Yeah, the School of Oriental and African Studies, right? But then I always point out to them that the late great Ivan van Sertima went to SOAS for 3 years, and he came out saying he didn't learn anything about Black history. So
then began the study. And then began the study that put his career together.
So his the argument is. Right, the biggest fear is that there's so much information out there which is obscure to them, and they don't understand why this isn't being taught on the mainstream as the norm. But by the time they get to 25, 26 weeks, they understand why it isn't being taught.
I was going to say, is it surprising to you that they don't know why they don't have it? Because a lot of the time, it's not something that you're searching for. You've just gone to the schools and the spaces of your enemies to say, please give me something. Right. And they gave you something, but they gave you what benefited them.
When we talk about Black history, because I know in one of the schools I remember working at, they would do, it was Black History Month. And when it was Black History Month, there was pictures of, Lewis Hamilton, Michael. It was Lewis Hamilton, Alicia Keys,
it's Black history.
Dizzy Rascal, whatever.
That's spooky.
This was Black history.
Can I just cut you there? One of my good brothers, we grew up from short pants from school, right? His son, right, always used to be around us, so we always used to talk about Black history and all the rest of it and blah, blah, blah. And he phoned me one day and said that Isaiah just got sent home from school for being disruptive, right? But he's phoning me to let me know that he loves me and he wants to shake my hand. Because what happened was at school was they had Black History Month and they put pictures up of Will Smith, Dizzy Rascal, Alicia Keys, and he wasn't having it. He said, this isn't Black history. They ain't even Black history icons. They are Black people. He at the time, he was about 9, right? He's 16 now, but at the time he was about 9. So the teacher, all cockily, said to him, oh, so what is Black history then? And he turned around and he said, I want to learn about the Black Lions of Ethiopia that my Uncle Mark always talks about. Boy. And then they sent him out of the room and yeah.
But to be honest, and the thing is, when he's got that strength, and I think that's something that we could blame you for here, Mark. Once you've given them that, it's very difficult to ask them to go and sit on their hands in these spaces. Like you have now, you put the mane on the lion, you sharpened the claws, you got him ready, now he's hungry for something real, and they try and put him in, that's not going to work.
Well, Minister Farrakhan said it, and this is what always pushed me from way back, because I was nation long before you was nation, trust me, right? In spirit. But Minister Farrakhan said that the biggest problem is that those who know the truth don't teach the truth or share the truth, and if you don't do that, then you are part of the problem. So at any time and any chance I always correct foolishness. That's how I call it, because there's a lot of foolishness going on out there, especially pertaining to us, right? And it's not healthy for the children to hear this stuff and nobody counteracting the argument, because then for argument's sake, I'll give you a perfect example. Christmas. Father Christmas. Yes. I had to school somebody on Christmas and Father Christmas and all the rest of it, and their first reaction was, "No, you're a sport. We should do it. We should do it for the children." It's for.
You was a liar, though.
No, not that I was a liar. I'm spoiling it for the children.
Yes.
I'm saying, but there will come a time where you're going to have to decolonize this foolishness for the children and let them know that it was.
If you tell the children Christmas is not real in school, you're in trouble for that, because you're not supposed to spoil it for the children.
Easter, any of those things. Yeah. Easter bunny, you just mess up everything.
I'm still.
Well, on that note, guys, I think that what's the last few words that you want to tell people who are considering?
Well, I don't know. I mean, really, it's just why Black History Studies, and I think the study of that, of giving our children that truth, is so important. I think what you're doing, the work you and your lovely lady wife are doing, is just amazing, and we're always a pleasure to have you. There's a seat for you at the Talk Black Radio Show any day you guys need to come up. Yes, so
thank you for
just
that.
Blessing to have you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, thank you very much. Bless Brother Trevor.
Amiga Radio 104.1 FM. News and views around your community.